Almighty God, we ask for your guidance and direction as we come together to meet. Grant us the strength to manage the challenges ahead and the wisdom to identify these as opportunities as we strive to serve the citizens of Crescent Springs. As we make decisions on behalf of them, grant us the gift of an open mind, the willingness to learn, the humility to accept the ideas of others. Please help us recognize diversity as a blessing and unity as our strength. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is Denise in the audience? Denise, come on up. Denise, we wanted to present a proclamation to you for your outstanding service to the city of Crescent Springs and the community. All those now present shall hear, whereas in June 1969, in the city of Crescent Springs, Gordon and Margie Gehring took a leap of faith and opened Crestville Drugs at the first strip mall at the corner of Buttermilk Pike and Anderson Road. In 1981, the store expanded its size by 50% due to community support, and in June of the same year, Gordon Gehring passed away, and his daughter Denise Schickling, being a part-time pharmacist, made the choice to manage the family business. Whereas Denise Schickling and Crestville Drugs made it a priority to give back to the residents and community by supporting the schools, churches, parks, golf outings, Veterans Memorial, 5K runs, and city events. Whereas Denise Schickling has come to know her customers by name and become not only their pharmacist, but a friend as well by treating them as she would want to be treated. Therefore, I, Lou Hartfield, Mayor of the City of Crescent Springs, on behalf of City Council and the citizens of Crescent Springs, wish to congratulate Denise Schickling on her retirement, thank her for her many years of service to this community, and officially proclaim the 15th of August 2017 as Denise Schickling Day in the City of Crescent Springs.
I really appreciate it. I wasn't expecting this. It's been a good experience for me. You know, a lot of friends and relatives and neighbors have all made the cut possible. Without the people that support us in the city and my family and the customers, it wouldn't have lasted so long. So I really appreciate it, and the business will go on, with or without me.
Well, enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. I will. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, roll call.
Mike Daugherty.
Here.
Bob Mueller.
Here.
Carter Dickerson.
Here.
Tom Bergamini.
Here.
Matt Zeck.
Here.
Christy Arlinghouse. Here.
Next item is approval of the minutes, July 10th, 2017, public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 10th, 2017 public meeting.
Chris made the motion to approve.
Second.
Mike second. Roll call.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Carter Dickerson.
Yes.
Tom Bergamini.
Yes.
Matt Zeck.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Daugherty.
Yes.
Okay. The July 10th council meeting, approval of minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Mike's made the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Christie second. Roll call.
Carter Dickerson,
Yes.
Tom Bergamini, Matt Zek,
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse,
Yes.
Mike Doherty,
Yes.
Bob Bueller.
Yes.
Okay, next item, PDS, Indy Vikovich. Did I mangle that, Indy?
And that's quite all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For reference,
Yeah.
my name is Andy Vidakovich, and I'm current planning manager with PDS. So there are 3 issues before you this evening. The first 2 are somewhat related, but I'll go through each one individually and answer questions as we go through, if you have any. So the first amendment was a text amendment that was submitted by the city regarding some changes to the text of the MLU2 zone, which, as you know, is the area up around where the new auto zone is going in, the Sherwin-Williams going in, and also the Taco Bell, the proposed Taco Bell, which we're going to be talking about. So there were two requests. Basically, the first request was to remove drive-throughs from the list of conditional uses and make them permitted uses. And then the second request was to add outdoor dining as a permitted use. So I'll just real quickly jump to the Planning Commission's recommendation. The Kent County Planning Commission actually made no recommendation on moving the drive-throughs from a conditional use to a permitted use. They took a motion to approve it. That motion tied. They didn't make another recommendation, so it comes to you with no recommendation. Regarding the second text amendment, adding the outdoor dining, the Planning Commission did recommend favorable. I'm sorry, my text is a little bit small, but they did recommend favorable with several conditions. Basically, the condition was that within the MLU2 zone, or excuse me, within the MLU zone, outdoor dining is currently a conditional use. And along with that, there are several conditions regarding where it can locate, how large it can be, when and how it can operate, and restricting the amplification of sound. And so basically their Planning Commission's recommendation was those restrictions you've got in the MLU zone, keep those same restrictions within the MLU2 zone. So it can't exceed a certain amount of square footage, it can't be operated later than 11:30, it can't be operated later than 2:30 on the weekends, and unamplified music is permitted, but shall be cut off again at a certain point in time. So that was one of the conditions. And the other condition that they had was, it was really just cleaning up a cross-reference. So outdoor dining be permitted, but then in another section it talks about activities, business activities that are allowed to be outside. And that section really should be updated to appropriately reference outdoor dining in connection with sit-down restaurants, in order, so there's no conflict, I guess, within the language itself. So that was the recommendation from the Planning Commission. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you regarding that. And I do believe you have on your agenda for later this evening, first reading on an ordinance. So,
Andy, can you go back a couple of spots?
sure. Say one.
No, not that one, that's fine.
Down. Up.
One more, all right.
Oh, sorry. Okay, got it. Right here.
All right, and then, okay, go to the next one, I'm sorry. Next one. Just want to read that again.
So just repeating back what you said, the conditions for this in our MLU would be exactly the same as the conditions in our MLU2. So basically,
Right.
everything's consistent. Okay.
Right.
He essentially articulated that our conditions for the outdoor dining in our MLU will be now the same as in our MLU2. So we're just going to have the same conditions in both zones, the same
I
restrictions.
thought the application was just for the MLU2 zone.
It is.
But we already have it in the MLU zone.
Right. We're recommending that the language read exactly the same way in the MLU2 zone as it is currently written in the MLU.
Because we do address drive-throughs in the development.
Right. And this is specifically regarding outdoor dining, so.
No, I understand that, but there is outdoor dining permitted at the Buttermilk Town Center. Outdoor. Yeah, there is outdoor dining.
At the Buttermilk Town Center,
Correct.
right,
Correct.
right.
Correct.
Does the current language that you're changing to already exist? I mean, do they already meet those requirements in the existing MLU zones?
Yes, they do. And when we reviewed what the Taco Bell is proposing, which we'll get to in a few minutes, they do meet those requirements in regards to the number of outdoor and meeting the. Now, obviously, we don't know about entertainment on unamplified music. That's more of a operational condition, not something you really see in the site plan.
Let me ask you this. Buttermilk Crossing, is that MLU?
Buttermilk Crossing.
Buttermilk Crossings MLU, this is an MLU2.
All right, so for instance, this would permit, what's it, KJ's, is that the name of the place?
KJ's an MLU, correct?
Right, it would permit outdoor entertainment.
They could make application, but they couldn't meet that requirement because part of the parking lot is where they would wanted to do it. And it would be in the travel portion.
Well,
of the
yeah,
parking lot.
if the landlord agreed, then they could meet this.
No, it says shall, otherwise shall preclude use of required parking spaces.
Right.
So they couldn't. Even if the landlord wanted to, they, unless they completely took out parking spaces and made it non-parking spaces. But as
Right.
it stands right now, they couldn't. Or at least that's the way I read it.
That's the way it
Okay.
is.
And then the limitation on hours seems to conform with liquor permitting. If we change the MLU, or add MLU up at the new small study area, this would affect the pizza place and is there bars still up there?
The new proposed zoning is an MC zone that is being proposed by PDS for that particular area. It's not an MLU.
But
It's
but
mixed
But
commercial.
due to the fact that we have drive-through restaurants up there already,
It would be permitted.
it would be permitted. And we also have outdoor dining up there already.
Correct.
Chipotle does.
And they would be, even if you changed it, they would be non-conforming.
McDonald's does as well.
McDonald's is outdoor? I didn't know.
Yeah, they would be non-conforming if you changed the zone and they're pre-existing.
And with respect to the decision, was it a tie or just,
It was a tie vote.
was there any expression as to why or why not? They voted?
So staff's recommendation was unfavorable on that, and our basis for that was that it was inconsistent with a pedestrian-friendly type of, so, let me clarify. It was a tie vote on the drive-through. Now, the outdoor dining itself, that flew without any problem. But specifically for the drive-throughs as a permitted use, they felt, at least half of them felt that it was inconsistent with the purpose of the MLU2 zone, which is to be a more pedestrian-oriented.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because if you do permit it as a permitted use, arguably every lot there could be a drive-through.
It could be if it meets the requirements. So obviously, half of the planning commission agreed and half of them didn't agree.
But also, if we do accept that, and they do allow it, they're still going to be subject to a development.
Right, and I think that in this particular case is what's going to limit
Right.
their drive-throughs, is because they did show this lot of the stage 1 plan having a drive-through.
Right.
So that's why, it's going there. I mean, it's been planned for since the beginning. If one of the other lots were to come through for a drive-through, that would be, I would guess, a major change that would have to go back through that entire process and ultimately come back to you for approval. So I would say, yes, it won't actually proliferate the drive-throughs by just putting in there the permitted use, because there still are some checks and balances on where they can go.
Yeah, with respect to the hours of operation of the music, I don't think that would be an issue so much up there because of the fact that here in the loud area anyway. I mean, honestly, outdoor dining is a good feature in the restaurants.
We think so, too.
Drive-through, it's on the fence on that one.
In reference to the drive-through, the reasons behind the drive-through wanted to add this permitted use, as Taco Bell came to us in reference to the drive-through. And PDS had called me in reference to the drive-through because they needed a Board of Adjustment meeting. I had called Tom, and per our discussion, we were going to add the drive-through as a permitted use for the simple fact that all the restaurants in the different areas where Burger King is and all the fast food restaurants have drive-throughs. And there was no use sending them back through a Board of Adjustment, costing them additional money with your typical fast food restaurants that you already have that. If you had a smaller lot, like you have AutoZone, you have 4 lots here, and one of them was on the original stage 1, I believe you said.
Right.
You know, calling for the drive-through. In a mixed land use or a mixed commercial use, when you have drive-through restaurant, or you have a fast food restaurant, no matter who you put in there, typically they're going to have a drive-through window. And that's why I thought that our conversation, that we allow that drive-through window because it comes typically with a fast food restaurant. Outdoor dining is a new type of thing. We had, KJ's wanted it, it was in the travel portion of the roadway. There was a safety issue, and that's why we didn't have them. Bleachers have a outdoor dining issue up in their LH zone, and that's behind the building. It's not in the travel portion of the driveway. I thought, you know, that in this particular situation with the mixed land use, that both of them should be permitted uses, and that's why I made the application.
And it is restricted to restaurants.
Restaurants.
Right.
Because I can tell you there are drive-through convenience stores. Or, you know, yeah, drive-through convenience stores.
Right.
A lot of them don't have.
You know, if Walgreens, let's say CVS wanted to go up there, and they have drive-through prescription window, it's the same thing as Buttermilk Town Center that has Remke's with a drive-through window.
Right, right. But in that case, and
It's-
I remember the whole issue with respect to Remke's, it was limited to pharmaceuticals.
Exactly.
Whereas, as I mentioned, I have seen convenience stores that have a drive-through where you can buy whatever is in the convenience store at the drive-through.
Right.
So if we are going to use it, we would want to limit it certainly to restaurants. The conditions, I think, are reasonable. The other thing I think we probably ought to add to it is that because of the development agreement, and we would have to apply this in all of it, is that we have some degree of control over it. Because you don't want too many drive-throughs in a way, because that's really, first of all, it's a walkability issue. But secondly, depending on who the business is, you know, we were all concerned about Chick-fil-A coming up here, there'd be stacking.
Sure.
If you have multiple drive-throughs in a row, which we do have right now on Hazelwood, we've got stacking issues.
One of the other issues I think that is important to keep in mind in this, that if you have a fast food restaurant, you know, okay, you allow them, you know, for the drive-through restaurant, but that must be a condition that they have sit-down dining as well. So in other words, whatever hamburger joint cannot go in and just serve hamburgers out of window. They have to be, the drive-through's got to be in conjunction with sit-down dining. And I think we put that in the MLU zone for Buttermilk Town Center. And I think this would have to apply too, and I think that should be part of the text. If we allow it, it's in conjunction with sit-down dining.
Andy, is there a way other than a fully permitted use and a conditional use that we can put a restriction on drive-throughs? I mean, I've seen this in other communities where they'll have the zone and then they'll have a listing whether it's permitted or not, and then there are some little exceptions to the permitted.
Yeah. Through the zoning, there's probably a way to do that. At the top of my head, though, I can't figure out really how that would be done.
We've got some control by the
I was
developer.
going to say, honestly, like in this situation, I think you've got a lot of control because of the development agreement and also the development plan that are in place. And any new development that comes in around here is going to have to go through that same process.
Correct.
So,
To that extent, we have a degree of control, whereas normally you wouldn't.
yeah.
But that, see, there's no such requirements for the Buttermilk Crossing Shopping Center. And I understand what the concept is for the small area study, but if additional MLUs, I guess what we would have to do is cross the bridge and say, okay, if we're going to allow that area, what do we want?
Okay.
Any other questions?
Let me ask you one other question. Since there is no recommendation, we can do whatever the heck we want.
Right. I mean, you could approve it or not approve it.
Or we can approve it with conditions.
Approve it with conditions, yeah. It would take a majority of the body to adopt that. I mean, obviously, you're all here, so.
When was the hearing? August 6th?
Yeah, I think it was, let me see here real quick, I got my, August 3rd.
You could or you couldn't.
How many days do we have before we have to make a decision?
There's no time frame on this.
The only problem that I have with that is that I got people sitting there just wanting to break ground on Taco Bell.
I understand that, but Taco Bell's already got a drive-through.
Yeah, but they don't have the outdoor dining. It's
Oh,
on.
I'm not objecting to the outdoor dining, I'm more concerned about the drive-throughs.
Well, they got a drive-through too.
Well, I understand that, I mean, they've got a drive-through, so we've already crossed that bridge. But with respect to the outdoor dining is not a problem. With respect to the drive-throughs, the question to Andy is, because we're not under a time crunch now with respect to the drive-throughs, we could deal with the outdoor dining now
Yeah.
and reserve judgment on the drive-throughs until some later date, so we have time to really sort of think this thing through.
Well, the only thing that I'll say is I'm fully expecting a stage 2 development plan to show up on our front door tomorrow
For drive-through.
Correct.
for the whole thing. And so, as currently, if no action is taken to approve this, they could still propose it, but with the understanding that they would still need a conditional use. And we could still process it, but we would have to say, at this point, you need a conditional use to do the drive-through.
You'd have to go to the Board of Adjustment, right?
Right. And
that's what
then,
we're trying to
And
figure out.
no, that's what we're trying to
Right.
prevent, because that's just, because one of the things, once it gives to the Board of Adjustments, it's totally out of our control.
and we have the stage 2 tonight, actually. I kind of misspoke. I mean, the stage 2 is actually for us here.
Yeah,
tonight.
and that's where,
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Mike, can this be done by order or does it need to be done by ordinance?
I think it needs to be done by ordinance.
Ordinance. So it's gonna take 2 readings anyway.
But we could still give them permission to make their application for that.
For the outdoor dining. Yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, I certainly have no objections to outdoor dining. I mean, that'll work no matter where you put it. It's the drive-throughs, because cars and people generally don't mix well.
Didn't we already vote to put drive-throughs up there when we were talking about Chick-fil-A? Haven't we already voted on this? I'm confused.
No,
Because there was a discussion we had about Chick-fil-A wanting to go there, because I remember Lou was against it, that's why I remember it. What did we vote on? Not Mayor Lou.
Lou Crable.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to argue against this, it's
Right,
just.
I'm only asking a question, I thought we'd already voted on this. Am I not
The only
accurate?
problem that I have with it is that if I am Taco Bell and I'm going to build a building there,
They
and all
already
my
are.
Taco Bell's got
They're already
drive-through,
up. Yeah,
I want that.
I'm with you.
And I may not,
That's what I'm trying to understand
sign
why
a
we're
lease
talking
or
about it. I thought we
whatever.
already voted on it.
And when we brought this up, they could have went to the Board of Adjustments a month ago.
I'm fully with you.
But on my suggestion or the request, and I talked to Tom,
Right.
we said we'll put it through as a text amendment to the MLU. And that's what we've done. And now we're wanting to hold them off on it again. That's my only concern.
I'm on the same page as you. I'm not sure why we're still talking about it.
I think we should
I thought we already voted on it.
Move forward and roll on.
Yeah.
Let's not obstruct.
I agree.
I don't know why we wouldn't have a window when it's a fast food
Yeah,
restaurant.
Right.
I agree.
I think if I'm not mistaken, that's what I was looking for, is I was looking for the development agreement with respect to, what's it called, Crescent Springs Commons or whatever. It does provide drive-throughs, but there's restrictions. That's why we were able to address it. So I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue for Taco Bell right now is the outdoor dining, right?
No, it's both.
Both together.
It's both. They want to make their application, they want to start
Wait a
turning
minute,
around.
if I'm not mistaken, do you have a copy of the development agreement?
Not with me. I could look it up, but.
Yeah, if you could, because I'd like to, we did address it. We did address.
We
drive-throughs.
put for Starbucks, when we talked about this, we allowed for a drive-through window for them or Chick-fil-A in conjunction with
Sit
sit-down
down,
dining.
that's what I think it.
That's exactly what it
And if you
was.
could pull that up, and I know there's a specific language about drive-throughs.
In the development agreement, right?
In
Not
the
the
development
design,
agreement.
not the design, okay. Just want to make sure I pull up the right document.
And this would be, just worry about the current one, not putting on time signs.
Yeah.
If nothing's changed since Hemlock. If nothing's changed since,
Yeah.
since we said okay to a drive-through,
Nothing's changed.
Right, nothing's changed.
then why would we change direction?
That's my question. Why are we talking about this?
I'm just trying to see, I refresh my recollection as to what expected drive-throughs.
So you probably know your way through this a little bit better or more exactly than just kind of.
Are you making an observation about all of council here, Chris?
Is it me?
I'm trying to be nice to one person. Take all my minutes.
No, I don't want to take her mints.
I don't
Send the mints back that way.
We brushed our teeth on this side of the table.
I was just being nice,
If
saying,
you took a minute, you
and
wouldn't
they
talk to those.
went down.
Yeah.
I got some left, thank God. Why am I the runt of all jokes?
We can take a collection. Here we go.
All right, it talks about the ML2 code as we have, as amended permits drive-throughs, but only as a conditional use. To provide an interpretation to this term that may not be fully defined in the zoning code, the parties agree that that term shall be interpreted to mean drive-through facilities, a facility which by design, that is a window, counter, microphone, and speaker, allows a customer of that facility to receive goods and services while remaining in their automobile at the facility, and the consumption and use of the product is intended to be elsewhere on the premises. The developer agrees that drive-through facilities includes only by way of example restaurants like Starbucks, Arby's, Wendy's, So we do address it.
Does that mean I'm not supposed to eat my french fries until I actually leave the property?
Correct.
Correct.
I've been doing that wrong.
Especially, that's the Matt Zeck exemption.
Well-
But no, I think we've already addressed drive-through, we just haven't addressed
My recommendation is that we make it as, like I applied for, as a permitted use instead of a conditional use, because it comes standard with all fast food restaurants.
Agreed.
Let's go.
All right.
Yes, moving on.
I'm going to jump ahead and Mike bring up ordinance 2017-8.
It's gonna have a motion.
That's the first
reading
That's
text
our first
amendment?
reading.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
You're going to new business already?
I'm gonna jump down to that and get that out of the way.
I'm looking for.
Well, you might as well wait till we go to the.
Because it's an ordinance.
Stage 2
It's an
plan.
ordinance.
We need two readings on it anyway.
We need 2
Yeah, that's
readings
the
on
first
it
reading.
anyway.
All right, all
But
right.
you can make a condition that they go ahead and make application and start. And you make your motion.
Okay, moving forward then with the.
Move it
Yeah.
forward.
Okay, thank you. I'll get to you, Larry. So, as you know, this is a stage 2 development plan for Taco Bell. The site is, obviously things have changed here. This area was taken, Ireland Avenue still existed, and obviously looks a lot different, but it's basically a 3-acre site on the corner of Ireland and Anderson Road, where Emily Drive and Sarah Lane go through the new Crescent Springs Commons. The AutoZone is located in this area, and the new Sherwin-Williams is located back here. And so the area outlined in blue is specifically the lot that we're considering. Oops, excuse me. So this is a brief history. Obviously, we just talked about these text amendments. And as you'll see in staff's recommendation, depending on what you do with the text amendment has a bearing on the conditions for the stage 2 plan. And we'll go ahead and we'll work through it as we get there. So this is the submitted development plan. Now there's several pages, so this is just the general site layout. The applicant's showing approximately 2,100 square foot Taco Bell building, along with 27 new off-street parking spaces located along Anderson Road and Emily Drive, as well as several off-street parking spaces adjacent to the Taco Bell. As there was a lot of discussion already, there is a proposed drive-through that wraps around off of Emily Drive along the side of the Taco Bell that is adjacent to the former Ireland Road, and then the traffic circulation comes back around front. There is only one access onto Emily Drive, located approximately directly across from where the AutoZone access is. So let me see what else I can tell you about this. There will be an approximate 300 square foot patio area located between the building and Anderson Road, which we're going to be calling the front of the building, as well as a new 4-foot sidewalk connecting from the sidewalk along Anderson Road through the site, leading up to the front entrance of the building. So this is a landscape plan that was submitted by the applicant. The applicant is identifying where the existing freestanding sign is, as well as quite a considerable amount of landscaping along Anderson Road. The applicant is also identifying several areas of landscaping along the interior of the site, and also around the dumpster, which is located right at the end, pretty much right where Ireland Road would dead end into the site. That dumpster is going to be screened with a fence as well as some landscaping, and a 7-foot high, not technically a fence, a masonry enclosure, which is more of like a wall type structure. These are the elevations submitted for the site. So this is the front elevation that would be facing Anderson Road. The applicant is proposing an aluminum storefront system. Most sides, you don't really see it on the front elevation necessarily, you see it on the rear elevation, which is on the right-hand side. It's going to be generally ephes and masonry with those natural colors. They have a darker natural color and a lighter cream color that are the primary colors for the building, as well as masonry unit foundation. These are the side elevations for the building. Real quick, I'll go back. So you also see there's this tower type structure that has a sign on it. This is going to be the side that's facing Emily Drive. And there will be another sign in this location. I will also point out that, let me see if I can get the description here. want to describe this, it's like, these are slats. I think they're like metal pre-finished slats above the storefront window that will be painted. And it'll actually look quite interesting at night. These slats, from what I understand, will be backlit with a splash of color. That's the new sort of prototype that the new Taco Bells are taking on. There's a sign facing Emily Drive. This is the drive-through side, so you can see again some of the primary materials and colors, as well as another sign located on that tower structure. At the front of the building, you see the location of the off-street, or excuse me, the outdoor dining area. Again, there's a provision for about 300 square foot area out that way. I will also like to note that if you remember when the original overall development plan came through, they submitted a traffic impact study, and there was quite a bit of a discussion on that. That original traffic impact study identified this site for a coffee shop with a drive-through, and we had our transportation engineer look at it. He said, yeah, coffee shop and a drive-through restaurant are a little bit of a different in terms of peak times and traffic and things like that. And so the applicant updated the numbers specifically as it related to this restaurant, just to show that, generally speaking, first of all, the Taco Bell will generate fewer trips than what was originally proposed. The queues along Emily Drive will not interfere with the proposed entrance. If I go back real quick. So people turning left or right, left or right, I guess, onto Anderson Road, they will not back up and actually block the entrance to
You
the
actually
Taco
move
Bell.
the exit out back.
Yeah. So that was kind of a concern, obviously, if they're blocking that entrance, and that's going to block people trying to get in, which is going to then have an effect on Anderson Road. But like I said, that's not going to happen. The applicant did look into that and submitted information that showed it wasn't. And then overall, the proposed development will not create any additional traffic impact issues. So again, I know there was a lot of discussion about that, and I want to say that at least from a traffic engineering standpoint, this is going to be less of an impact than what was even initially proposed. So staff is giving this a favorable recommendation. I've highlighted the first two conditions because, again, those are directly related to the text amendments. So the first two conditions are approval of the drive-through by the BOA. Obviously, if the text amendments are approved, then that's no longer necessary. And then staff is recommending that the outdoor dining be removed. Again, obviously, if it's approved and you've got a favorable recommendation from both staff and the KCPC, then that condition is no longer necessary. But just to cover our bases and just because you never know what might happen, we wanted to include that condition. Other conditions include revising the landscape plan, adding pedestrian connections to Sarah Lane and Emily Drive, as well as the sidewalk along Old Ireland Road. And I'll go into each one of these in a little bit. That the building facade meet a 50% transparency, a land disturbance permit from SD1, hidden downspouts, which is a part of the development agreement, building articulation and materials, parapet wall screening the roof, and signs meeting the requirements of the design guidelines. So first of all, there was a lot of talk about landscaping and a revised landscaping plan. So there's basically three types of landscaping that are required for this development. First of all, whenever there's an off-street parking area adjacent to a private drive and a public street, then perimeter landscaping is required. And it goes into specifics about how many trees are required for how many feet. And you can see along Anderson Road, there's actually quite a bit of, oops, I'm sorry, I'm moving a little bit here. Along Anderson Road, there's quite a bit of landscaping shown. However, sorry, I must be touching this certainly. Along Emily Drive and Sarah Lane, you don't actually see any of that perimeter landscaping. And so that's one of the areas where we're going to need to see some additional landscaping. Also, in a development like this, there's a requirement that says basically 10% of every yard must contain landscaping. So that's not in addition to all the other stuff, so they can basically double dip. Any of their perimeter landscaping can count towards the 10%. But again, we just need some additional information. A lot of these comments are just actually providing us with the actual calculations. We can kind of estimate what this is based on GIS and stuff like that. But the developer and especially landscape people are going to be able to provide us those calculations really quick. And as long as we see that those numbers are matching up, that's all we're really looking for. And finally, the interior landscaping. Basically, when you have a parking lot, basically the entire area of the parking lot. 5% of that must be landscaped with these interior type islands located here and in the back and over here too. Again, they're showing some landscaping, so it may meet that requirement, but we need actually the specific calculation so we know for sure that they're meeting that 5% requirement. So even though we're saying that a revised landscape plan be submitted, if we get all the necessary information, they may actually be meeting some of these requirements and not actually having to redo
Andy,
everything.
one question. You stated that when it's parallel to a public street, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, the rear of the building is parallel to a private street. Sarah's private and so is Emily.
So, I understand, let me find that real quick here. So basically, the ordinance within that landscaping table states that any commercial land use which abuts a public right-of-way is required to have, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Let me find it again. Any vehicular use area with any zone or land use which adjoins a public or private street is required to have a 10-foot
Public
perimeter.
or private, okay.
Yeah, so.